Hello, I am Baron-Quipity, and welcome to Baron-Quipity, a podcast of quips and tips from a hip librarian gamer. Let's get right to it. Welcome to episode 2 of Baron-Quipity. AppSir Incorporated is a company based in Manila, Philippines that is best known for their PC and mobile games, which include meta-horror platformers, visual novels, and even a few Easter eggs, such as YouTube videos and hidden game prototypes that further develop the overarching narrative the company is creating for their own fictional universe. The story of the AppSir universe is a story of aggressive research programs, intellectuals bent on world domination, sentient AI, haunted and glitchy video games, but most of all, connections. Connections between people and connections with paranormal phenomena. We may have heard and seen these things before in other franchises, series, and fandoms, but I've never seen these elements come together quite like they do with AppSir. I made this episode for the benefit of interested fans who want to know more about the AppSir story, but don't know where to start. All of the information presented here has been collected through my own research, or the research of other fans, and a bit of direct communication with Darius Guerrero, the developer himself. This episode of Baron-Quipity is actually an updated version of an AppSir Timeline video I made on this very channel a couple of years ago. Enough has happened since then that I felt a new version was warranted. This episode will contain story spoilers for all of AppSir's games, since I want to try to share their narrative as a whole to give the big picture. I strongly suggest either playing the games yourself, it should only take a few hours to play through them all, and they cost anywhere between free and $1, or watch someone else play them, especially if you get easily frustrated by difficult platforming, before finishing this video. If you're looking for playthroughs, why not check out the playthrough series on the AppSir Fan Gamer channel, run by yours truly. Also, this Sunday, June 7th, starting at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, I will be doing a marathon stream of the full AppSir catalog on Twitch. This is my way of celebrating the 1,000 Twitter follower milestone, but also a way to celebrate AppSir's past just days before their new game, HopBound, releases on mobile and PC. Anyway, here we go. All of the following events take place at or near Manila, Philippines, unless otherwise stated. Adjust my mic here. Here we go. In 1984, an arcade platformer now known as Progenitor Dairy was developed and released supposedly by a research company called the Rothstein Institute, which is run by a group of intellectuals called The Family with the goal of world domination. The game was launched in only a handful of arcades in Manila, Philippines. This occurred during a nationwide video game ban that lasted from 1981 to 1986. That ban, by the way, was actually a real thing that happened in the Philippines. Feel free to look it up if you want. It is likely due to this ban that the cabinets housed in the game, the arcade cabinets housed in the game, were soon recalled and destroyed, though we know at least one cabinet survived this time period. Around this time, in the middle of the decade, a woman named Sarah Gentner gave birth to a girl named Kara Gentner. In 1985, the Rothstein Institute created Proto-Dairy. Proto-Dairy. I keep wanting to say dare instead of dairy. It's D-E-R-E, like the end of Yandere. Anyway, the Rothstein Institute created Proto-Dairy, the next iteration of the Dairy series. Proto-Dairy was less a game and more an experiment related to the Schumann resonance, another real phenomenon you can look up. Anyway, Sarah Gentner agreed to be a test subject for this strange experiment, though she didn't likely realize all it entailed. As far as we know, this experiment, created by Dr. Philip Rothstein and Nancy D. Guerrero, Darius's mother, involved transferring a human consciousness into the NES game and observing the responses of that person. This consciousness, now digital, would be erased and restored with each playthrough to prevent the subject from escaping. One sad side effect of this is that Kara Gentner never got to properly meet her mother, Sarah, especially since it seems Sarah is still to this day trapped in Proto-Dairy. Not much else happens in the timeline for a while except the birth of a boy named Darius Guerrero in the early 90s, and also the births of 3 more girls, Miles Stone, Yana Curtis, and Venice, all at about 1995. 1999 was a significant year in the AppSir Timeline, mostly because this was the year a young Darius Guerrero created a website to chronicle his very first attempts at video game development. His first post on the site was on May 19, 1999, with the final post on the site dated October 10th later that year. On June 2nd, Darius met a weird person, a woman named Lilith, an employee of the Rothstein Institute. 4 days later, Lilith gave Darius the source code of a game labeled DE***.exe, also known today as Dairy Source, which we can assume is a version of the derelict arcade game Progenitor Dairy, made by the Institute over a decade earlier. With Lilith's blessing, Darius resolved to finish developing the game itself. Darius worked on the game and explored its files throughout the next several months, noticing strange errors and glitches throughout development. In September, Darius decided to fill in the missing letters of the game's title and call it Dairy.exe. He even came up with the name of a potential sequel, DairyEvil.exe, because he apparently liked the Resident Evil series. He also discovered that the game had a couple different iterations, including one for NES consoles. Again, Progenitor Dairy. Wait, no, sorry, not Progenitor Dairy. Proto Dairy. Gosh, I need to fix my script on that one. Can't believe that. Proto Dairy is the one on NES. Anyway, both of those, both Progenitor Dairy and Proto Dairy are like, they were made at about the same time, 1984, 1985. Progenitor Dairy came first, before Proto Dairy. Anyway, as September came to a close, however, Darius decided to take a break from developing Dairy.exe because he kept getting a lot of weird errors on his computer. In spite of these obstacles, it would be far from the last time Darius, or the world, would see this game. While all of this was going on, the Rothstein Institute had been running what they called the Yandere program. This program sought to create yanderes, biologically engineered weapons given the form of young women. They were able to infiltrate organizations very effectively. There were also programs to fall in love with a certain person, allowing the Institute to ensure that person's survival at any cost. Yanderes were created and raised in a lab disguised as a church dormitory. These conditions were apparently very unpleasant for the Yanderes because at least two of the participants, Kara Gentner and Kia, later expressed fear and discomfort with their memories of the dormitory and the experiments that happened there. In spite of their superior strength and genius-level intellect, the Yanderes were easily controlled by the Institute, putting any Yandere in a trance using certain symbols and keywords, manipulating them through hormone injections, and monitoring each Yandere's whereabouts closely. Each Yandere had a handler, as evidenced by the fact that Kia revealed that Lilith was her handler. Kia actually ended up revealing most of what we know about the Institute, the family, and the Yandere program to an unknown source, who then wrote down and sold that information anonymously to young Darius. December 1999 was meant to be the release of the game The Other Yandere for the Sega Genesis, which would reveal all of Kia's information and tell of her death. But the official release never happened. The world would never know about The Other Yandere and its associated events until April 23, 2018, when AppSir Incorporated released a video on YouTube showing a full playthrough of a ROM of the game. The eventful year of 1999 finally came to a close, and we wouldn't see anything else happen in the timeline for another 15 years. There's a fair amount of mystery in the events that immediately follow, but we'll continue with what we know. Inside a decrepit mansion, the Rothstein Institute was conducting experiments with a strange alien weapon called the Tri-Nemesis, which seems to only be controlled when it establishes a telepathic connection with a human. It does this by implanting something in the recipient's brain. It also seems that most humans can't survive this procedure. The Institute sent, or lured, many people into the mansion to encounter the Tri-Nemesis. One way they did this was to have Lilith instruct her niece, named Venice, to establish the sorority in her own school, and only let members in if they survive a night in the spooky mansion. Dr. Philip Rothstein, the leader of the Institute, would sometimes do a tour of the house, investigating paranormal activity which came as a result of the deaths caused by Tri-Nemesis encounters. Yana Curtis, lured to the mansion by Venice's sorority rite, died on or shortly before June 30th, 2014. The shocked and distraught Yana, now a ghost, came very close to destroying Venice in revenge, but thought better of it. By this time, only one person is known to have survived an encounter with the Trinemesis and received a telepathic link in their brain, Lilith's brother. More about him later. By the next week, on July 7th, 2014, all Yanderis from the Yandere program had been destroyed except for Kara, who was being kept in a comatose state. That same day, Miles Stone tried out an odd little game called Derry Alpha at the encouragement of someone named E.N., who we later learn is Eunice Natasha, a member of Venice's nefarious sorority. Miles was later bullied by Venice to spend a night at the mansion. While there, Miles meets the ghost of Yana and learns the deadly truth about Venice and the sorority. However, that night at the mansion claimed Miles' life as well. Yana, now doubly upset at seeing Venice sending multiple people to die in the mansion, actually kills Venice for revenge the next morning on July 8th. For 40 days after Venice's death, Miles and Yana roamed as ghosts until they both got sucked into Darius's copy of Derry's Source, the game Lilith gave him. While Miles's father, Jack Stone, was in mourning over his daughter's mysterious demise, Darius met the depressed man and thought he could find a way to bring Miles back and make Jack happy again. Jack moved to America sometime between 2015 and 2018. The next event in the timeline is the founding of AppSir Incorporated in Manila, Philippines. By this time, Darius Guerrero had been working as a regional training manager for the Philippine government, and he left that job to finally release a game based on the source code he got as a kid. The first year of the company was rather rocky, however, due to the events shown in the visual novel The Last Yandere, which occurred on or near November 18, 2017. Lilith's brother's encounter with the Trinemesis in the mansion not only gave him the telepathic link, but it also wiped all of his memories from before 2014. So he was told by doctors that he had a brain tumor and that there was no hope for recovery. However, Lilith offered an experimental cure from the Rothstein Institute. After curing the brother of his tumor, the Institute ran some tests on him to see if he could pilot the Trinemesis telepathically. The brother could get it to fly with his mind, but couldn't or wouldn't operate its weaponry. Dr. Rothstein gave him some pills to take regularly to, quote-unquote, keep the tumor at bay. I'll also mention here that we don't actually have a name for Lilith's brother yet, oddly enough, so for simplicity's sake, I'm going to call him LB from this point on. In 2017, LB prepared to interview for a graphic design job at AppSir Incorporated. On the way, he met Kara Gentner at a cake shop. Kara clinged to him instantly, and he grew to like her as well. However, he soon learned that Kara's extreme yandere-type jealousy drove her to kill Mia, an AppSir Incorporated employee who had spoken with him earlier. LB even met with Darius, who informed him of Mia's death. This is also where we see one of those surviving arcade cabinets from 1984, the game called Progenitor Derry. LB eventually gets hired because his connection with the Trinemesis is somehow manifested in that game. It is revealed later that Kara only exists in LB's mind. The Institute had, in fact, downloaded a digital copy of Kara Gentner's consciousness into LB's brain, hoping that Kara's aggressive yandere sensitivities would make him more willing and able to use the Trinemesis for the Institute's destructive purposes. Perhaps those pills helped with that process. It is further revealed that he was actually an integral part of the family and was in full support of the destructive plan before he lost his memories thanks to the incident at the mansion. The Institute, still controlling Kara, ordered her to take total control over LB to pilot their Trinemesis and destroy part of the city, including the AppSir Incorporated office building. After this attack, however, LB and Kara, speaking with each other in his mind, came to terms with reality, knowing that the real, physical Kara Gentner was still out there somewhere. Furthermore, LB had changed, now not wanting anything to do with the family's destructive plot. Kara/LB turned around and used the Trinemesis to destroy Dr. Rothstein and Lilith. The digital Kara was soon deleted from LB's brain due to her rebellion. In spite of the death of an employee and the destruction of an entire office building, Darius and his company recovered soon enough. especially after Darius found and recovered a corrupted disk of Derry's source among the wreckage. It's not fully explained, but the ghostly digital consciousnesses of Miles, Yana, and Kara were all contained in that disk. Their collective presence caused the disk and its code to become corrupted, but the game seemed to work just fine, so development continued until, at long last, Derry.exe was released to the public on February 7th, 2018. Upon release, the game had one huge glitch, or feature if you want to call it that. That glitch was Kara. In spite of AppSir's public warnings to not download the game, millions played the buggy game, including several well-known gamers on YouTube. Darius was well aware of Kara's presence, somehow making it into his game, feeling justifiably upset at her for the murder of an employee and the destruction of his old office building. Darius asked Miles and Yana to help him subdue Kara. In spite of Kara's efforts to escape the game and return to LB, she was trapped and supposedly deleted by Darius. On March 5, 2018, a visual novel titled Sorority Rites was released, revealing the story behind the deaths of Miles and Yana. As mentioned before, April 23rd of this year was when AppSir released footage of their ROM of The Other Yandere. The middle of 2018 was fraught with further difficulty for Darius as he attempted to publish his next game, DerryEvil.exe. Miles and Yana in particular, started showing up within the game itself. They were honestly upset with Darius that he had supposedly deleted Kara. They agreed to help subdue Kara, but not delete her. So, they were upset at him for that. On June 8th, AppSir released a video on YouTube that revealed the events of June 6, 1999, the day young Darius received Derry's source from Lilith. Finally, DerryEvil.exe was released on July 3rd, 2018. In the game, Darius tries to convince the player that an evil entity named Yana was holding a princess named Miles captive, and that the player, a knight in shining armor named Knightley, was there to rescue Miles. Yana soon started showing up in the game, displaying some of the same aggressive behavior as Kara had in Derry.exe. Darius claimed that he was trying to bring Miles back to life in the real world to make her single father, Jack, happy again. Yana kept fighting back against the player and Darius until Miles revealed that she didn't want to go back. She knew that her father had moved to America and had even started a new, happy relationship. Besides, the only way Darius could bring Miles back to life was to transfer her consciousness to a new body, the player's body, and Miles didn't want that. The player can then decide to side with Darius and delete the girls, or refuse. Either way, Yana had manipulated the game to such a degree that deleting them would have only deleted their avatars in a bonus game she created, allowing Yana and Miles both to persist regardless. In addition, it is revealed that Kara is not entirely deleted, as she wakes up at the very end of the game during one of the endings. On July 7th, AppSir posted another video revealing that everything from all their games was connected by this one overarching narrative. So this is where my older timeline video left off. So now we get to go into the things that happened in the AppSir timeline since 2018. January 2019 was when AppSir Incorporated announced the discovery of an old NES game, Proto-Derry, the Rothstein Institute's experiment in which Sarah Gentner was still trapped. This is not necessarily part of AppSir's fictional timeline, but I think it's worth mentioning anyway. The AppSir Discord server was founded by Sonic Castle and myself in May 2019, and we recently celebrated its first anniversary with a fun, non-canon Escape the Mansion puzzle game exclusive to the server. If you're interested, come join us. It will be fun. Anyway, July 2019 marked 5 years since the death of Venice, and Eunice Natasha, by now a hugely popular vlogger similar to PewDiePie, made a memorial video using pictures she had of Venice from their school days. You can actually check out Eunice Natasha's YouTube channel and Twitter, although she apparently does most of her work on VidSir, which is AppSir's own video sharing platform, formerly known as Uvine. It is unique to the fictional AppSir universe, so no, VidSir is not a real site as far as I can tell. In August 2019, the next game in the series, Artificial Iridescence, was released. This is another visual novel that tells the story of a young couple's strained relationship, and showed that not all may be what it seems at AppSir Incorporated. Clint was so happy to marry the girl of his dreams, Ava. She was very pretty and very smart, and Clint kept the house while she worked as a programmer for AppSir Incorporated. She started to work on an artificial intelligence program called Ava, which was meant to be a digital representation of the human Ava to help with AppSir's next game. So I'd like to step aside on a small tangent here before going on. Each version of the Dairy games also had a helpful AI within it. We had artificial we had artificial intelligence for the Rothstein Institute, or ARI, in Progenitor Dare. Then we had artificial intelligence for Dairy Alpha, or ADA, in Dairy Alpha. Artificial intelligence for Dairy.exe, or AID, in Dairy.exe, and DairyEvil.exe. Artificial intelligence for Dairy.exe Next, or AIDEN, was meant to replace AID, but the artificially intelligence virtual assistant, or AVA, was meant to be better than AIDEN. I know that might sound a bit confusing, but just know that AIDEN was the AI that AppSir had prepared for the next game, but someone else in the company thought she could make a better program with Ava. Okay, back to the young couple. As Ava, the human, poured her time and energy into her AI project, Clint noticed that she started to get tired and rather detached more often at home. All she thought about at home was work. As the digital Ava got more advanced, it seemed the human Ava had less and less energy. Perhaps that was just an uncanny coincidence, right? In any case, Clint sometimes spent his hours at home watching videos and playing games. He was a big fan of Eunice Natasha, and one of her news videos showed Ava getting cozy with her manager, Tristan. This angered Clint, and he confronted Ava about it. Ava confessed that she and Tristan were having an affair. At this point, Clint had lost it. Perhaps not in his right mind, he shoved Ava, knocking her unconscious, and found her laptop where the Ava project was on the screen. Clint talked with the digital Ava for hours until the human Ava, still hurt, asked for Clint's help. This is where it gets really strange. Clint legitimately forgot who his wife was. He thought she was a lady from AppSir coming to take the digital Ava away from him. It is not clear how his memories got altered like this, but by the end, Clint was fiercely loyal to the digital Ava, and human Ava was left for dead. Apart from artificial iridescence, as well as a few updates and videos here and there, 2019 turned out to be a slow and challenging year for real-world Darius and AppSir Incorporated. You can see some of this reflected in a video posted by AppSir in November 2019, in which Darius has a chat with Mia, the employee killed by Kara. In the fictional timeline, I suspect Darius had been struggling with the many frustrations brought upon him by the Rothstein Institute, as well as by the literal ghosts who have been haunting his game. All of this compounded by the loss of an employee he cared about. Another video posted in 2019 revealed a little more about the origins of Kara Gentner as a yandere, in which some of her deadly superhuman abilities are demonstrated. That video also seemed to show that the yandere program was funded by at least one other company that didn't seem to realize what it got itself into. This leads to that all leads to the next game in the series, HopBound, which will be released on iOS, Android, and PC on Tuesday, June 9th, just a few days away. AppSir has released a few trailers about it, and as far as I can tell, it looks to be another very promising, very intriguing entry to the series, and it's likely that it explores AppSir narrative and gameplay in entirely new ways. Since every AppSir game's story happens in real time, I suspect that any events in HopBound will take place in June of 2020. I can also say that Darius often compares his games to the way the Marvel Cinematic Universe was organized. The Marvel films include lots of standalone stories about individual heroes in order to set up the epic Avengers films that bring them all together. Likewise, AppSir's visual novels tend to focus on personal narratives, such as the story of Miles and Yana, or the story of LB and Kara, or the story of Clint and Ava. The Dairy games bring them all together to really advance the narrative forward. Time will tell what sort of story HopBound will bring to the overall narrative. So, what now? Well, while we wait for HopBound to release, you're more than welcome to check out the AppSir Discord server. Darius himself hangs out and chats with fans there on occasion. You can also check out the AppSir Wiki, appsirwiki.blogspot.com, which I created. That wiki site had a bit of a glow up very recently, actually, because Darius himself, a master of Blogger, has been updating the site's graphical format to make it look more like the AppSir Games official website. Both the Discord server and the wiki have direct approval from the dev himself. Pretty cool. There are also lots of mysteries in the AppSir universe that have yet to be solved. More answers will certainly come in the next games, but what if there are clues in the current games we haven't discovered yet? I haven't even gotten into some of the subtle clues hidden in Design Hero, an indie game by Mexican developer Akanaba, that hint at a strained relationship between AppSir Incorporated and the Rothstein Institute. One of the existing games even contains the beginning of an internet scavenger hunt that eventually leads to 2 prototype games and a web page with several intriguing lore secrets. You're certainly welcome to check these things out for yourself, but I will be going over all this and more in my AppSir Marathon stream on Sunday, June 7th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. There are other fascinating mysteries hidden within the tangled yet cohesive world AppSir is creating. Seriously, very few video game series have me enthralled by its lore quite like the AppSir series. Before Sunday's stream, I plan to release another episode of Baron-Quipity revealing the real-world history of AppSir Incorporated and its founder, Darius Guerrero. In that episode, I will also explain more about why I love the series so much. I'm always happy to discuss theories or answer questions about this stuff. You can contact me by email at barondipitus@gmail.com or on Twitter at bdipitus, or just leave a comment below and I will certainly respond. And that concludes this episode of Baron-Quipity. Thank you very much for listening, and until next time, my friends, make it a great day. All the best.